Hello, hello. Welcome to Soul Speakers interview series. I'm so excited because I am here with an amazing guest. I cannot wait for you guys to meet her. She is a hypnotherapist, a teacher, a coach, an amazing, amazing, gifted person. And so, welcome, Tania Lopez.
Hi, Susan.
I'm
I'm
so
happy.
happy to have you here. We've been wanting to do this for a long time.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. So Tanya participated in my last summit, which was phenomenal. So um, we've been playing together for quite a while. Before I dive into the interview, I'm just going to read your mini bio. Okay, so let me just pull that up. Okay, so Tanya is her business is Full Circle Hypnotherapy, and she works with stressed out, overwhelmed moms to make parenting easier. With a unique combination of hypnotherapy and coaching, she gets to the root of the issue of your child's behavior and your behavior in response. We all have triggers that were set when we were children, and these can be activated by other people or our children. She helps moms to help their children listen to them, cooperate, and generally to stay calm and in control as a parent. That is like a short little nutshell of who you are as a person. Um, so, so I just found that you care so deeply about the struggles that parents are facing, especially we've had some conversations, especially this year has been um, uh, way more challenging than any parent could even have fathomed, right?
Yeah.
So why do you focus on helping the parents, the moms in particular?
Yeah. I suppose I've been working with families for many, many years, and I just feel passionate about how future generations are, how they can be molded, how they can be, um, how they can be free to live the lives that they want and how we can guide them. And I know that parenting seems to be really hard work, and so many people just don't enjoy that journey. And I think there is so much when it comes to parenting that it's all about fixing someone. So it's either about fixing the parent or fixing the child. And it's all about tools, tips, and strategies. And I think what everybody seems to what people don't tend to focus on, it's just another relationship. So rather than treating it like a relationship, people seem to go into parenting with like a toolkit. There's no other relationship. You wouldn't go into a relationship with a partner or a husband or a wife with a toolkit.
Right.
It already needs fixing. So it's just this attitude that, everything is broken and it needs tools, tips, and strategies rather than I'm a person, you're a being, I'm a being. How can we relate? How can we be with each other?
Right. How can we co-create this relationship?
Yeah,
Right. I
absolutely.
love that you say that children don't need to be fixed. Parents don't need to be fixed. It didn't come with instructions, right?
Well,
Uh,
I always say that we have come with instructions. We've had a download from the way we were parented. And so there is
right.
already a computer program in here that tells us the do's and don'ts that we, and unfortunately, that program is out of date, full of viruses, it needs rebooting.
I love that. It's full of viruses, right?
So there may be some viruses that need, to be deleted. It needs to be upgraded. It needs to be rebooted. So everybody's walking around with a parenting manual because everyone has an opinion on parenting. Everyone can say to someone, "Oh yeah, that's a terrible mum," or look at what that parent is doing. So everybody's walking around with their own manual.
Yeah. And do you think that every generation of beings, like, I think that my parents, like, did everything wrong, right? Do you think that they felt the same way about their parents and our kids felt the same way about, right? So I love this energy that we're moving into. Like, I really feel like most people now are viewing their kids in a different way, not as children, but as spirit, right? They're their own being, they're their own person. And so our job isn't to tell them how, would you say our job isn't to tell them how to be, but to just nurture their own inner compass of who they're meant to become?
Yeah, I think there are so many challenges, and this is one of the things that I think a lot of people are struggling with. Is they want their children to be, but it's almost like then they don't seem to feel comfortable in giving any kind of guidance. It can go from one extreme to another. So you can still guide them, and I think the most important thing is to role model whatever it is that whatever qualities is, rather than behavior. Because I think like you're talking about generational parenting, a lot of it we were very good at conforming or people pleasing, and we now know people pleasing is something that haunts us as adults.
Yeah,
To teach people to not be a people pleaser anymore. And that's what we trained, or that's how we were trained as children to become people pleasers of our elders, of people who we should be respecting. And I think there has been a trend in not just automatically respecting somebody. And that's not become disrespectful, but don't just take everything you hear for granted. Don't just
right. Yeah, that's so true. I love that you said that. So, like, I always felt like the bad guy, right? Because I wasn't awake when I was raising my children. They're in their 30s now, right? Um, so I was just like, okay, clean your room, do this, do your homework, do that, right? I did at times be like, okay, so what do you want, right? But it was the exception, not the rule, right? And I think that I always use this example now since I've had my awakening, and tell me what you think about this. It's like, you know, babies, when they come into the world, they don't even need us, right? They don't need us because they know intuitively how to suckle a breast, right? We don't teach them to roll over or sit up. They just intuitively know. They intuitively know to cry to get what they want. They intuitively know to coo and smile, right? To receive attention. It's just when they start walking all of a sudden, and they don't need us to teach them how to walk. It's just an intuitive thing, right? But then when they start walking, it's like, oh, don't climb up that and don't do this. And then all of a sudden we're imposing all these boundaries and these rules. And so then I feel like we're boxing them in when they didn't even imagine if we just took our hands off the wheel and let them figure things out for themselves, and we guide them in a gentle way, allowing them to just be who they are, right?
because as soon as they start walking, they are walking towards independence, aren't they? The moment they start walking, that's what they're walking towards. And I guess as a parent, all you see is all the dangers. They're going to, they're going to go straight towards that plug. That's dangerous. That they're going to want to.
But they're going to bring that fork.
And they are just born curious and they're explorers. And you're right, the language we start using with them from about the age of 1 is no, don't do that. Don't do that. And we still need to guide them because yes, there are going to be dangers all over. It's how we guide them. So the language we tend to use is stopping them.
Yeah.
And kind of redirect them. So allow them to be curious. Allow them to because they're here to learn.
Yeah.
It works. And the reason they break things is not because they're being naughty, but they want to see how things are. And it's part of their movement as well. When they take things apart, they're learning all the time. So they're just exploring and they want to know the wonders of the world. But we just have these expectations of them that they can't meet because of their explorer instincts.
Right.
And so we're always trying to keep them safe. And trying to keep them safe, we're narrowing their world.
Right. And so then they're left trying to create in this very limited way. Right? Because it's like, don't jump on the bed. Don't do this. Don't do that. And we don't stop to say, I'm concerned that if you jump in the bed, you're going to fall off. Right? We don't say that. We just say, because I said so. I said so. Right?
And, so like, that's a really good example. Like, don't jump on the sofa, don't jump on the bed. And it's good to explain that the reason we don't jump on furniture is because we respect it.
Right.
Other alternatives: jump in the garden, jump on the trampoline, jump on the floor.
Right.
A lot of energy, and they need to jump. Let them jump.
Yeah. Right.
Same time with respect for furniture. So jump in an appropriate place, because if they've got all this furniture, what normally happens is when you say to them, don't jump on the sofa, they'll go jump on a chair. They'll go jump on a table. Because that's the energy they've got. And so it's really about, you need an outlet for the energy. You want to jump. Let's find a safe way for you to do it. Or a fun way to do it.
Right. And so I do recognize, like, our children are born infinite beings, right? They are of source energy. They are of the one. They are everything. They are infinite. And we're teaching them, we're taking away their infinite beingness, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that I see kids in a whole new light. And do you think that at first, like little kids, like 1, 2, 3, they don't understand because they still understand themselves as infinite? Do you think they still have that knowing that?
I mean, children are born incredibly wise, aren't they? And our bodies are incredibly wise when they're born. So a really common example is, when we're feeding children, is they know when they're full.
Yeah.
Really clear. They're very assertive. They give you really clear signals. And we just go, no, just one more. And we override. And we override their own instincts of when they're full, because their body is so intelligent. It knows when it's hungry, it knows when it's full. And we're constantly overriding all their own natural signals because we're so worried that they're going to be starving, they're going to be hungry.
I did that to my son because he went through this period. He didn't want to eat anything. And I'm like, you have to eat. You have to eat.
And then there's the other periods where you can't give them enough food because they're going through a growth spurt. And you're like, what happened? So and it can be a worry when, so I'm not talking about children who where there might be some kind of issue around eating.
Yeah.
Most children know when they're full and they know when they're hungry.
Yeah. So, we're not trying to bash any moms or
No.
parents, right? Because we're doing things how we've been taught for generations and generations and generations, right? So you're not screwing up your kids, okay? You're not doing anything wrong. It's just when you come to this understanding of exactly who they are. And so it's just shifting the way that we view them. And then we allow more of who they're meant to be to come out. Yeah.
The word you used initially was co-create.
Yeah.
That is such a key word because, yes, parents are meant to guide children, but actually, children also guide us. If
Yeah.
we're willing to follow their guidance,
Yeah.
that's real co-creation. Because then they'll also use us as their guides, because obviously we can role model how we are in this world, how we are with other people, how we are with life. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing how kids can bring a freshness or a newness to our own being? They are so wise and they are so curious, and the smallest thing gets them excited, right? And that's how, if we weren't trained to limit ourselves so much, that we would still be seeing the world. Would you
Absolutely.
say that?
Absolutely. Because we have been trained we've been programmed to see the world the way our parents saw it, or whoever our caregivers were. So we weren't allowed to just carry on seeing the world with innocence, with wonder, and then also you realize you're not cool. You don't fit in. The kids are the way they've been trained. So, there's all these influences coming that stop us from really being just our natural selves. We conform, we try and fit in, we try and be like everybody else.
Right. And they survived us by they survived us by, like, when they were born, and they knew exactly who they were, and they really didn't need us to figure out how to eat or figure out how to sit up or crawl or roll over. We didn't teach them that. So I'm always curious, like, what if we didn't say stop, but we were just there to make sure they didn't put that fork in the electric outlet, but we didn't say don't jump on the bed, right? We didn't say don't, but we were just there to catch them if they were to fall.
No, you can just redirect them. You can, if you say their name or you get their attention, you ask them to come to mummy, come and do this. They'll hear your voice and they'll come to you. It's when we say don't, we make everything so much more exciting. And they're so curious, why not that? Why can't I go there?
Right. And then we're getting annoyed that they're asking why. And that's where the because I said so.
They're very little, they're not going to be asking why, they're just going to carry on. If we can just gently redirect them, bring them to us, let them know that there's excitement here.
Yeah.
So that would give them a very different experience, because they're not hearing the constant. Of course, there are times when we do have to say no. We obviously have to think about their safety, because the way we've created the world, there are dangers. So absolutely, there are times when we say no, but we make it really clear why we're saying no, so they understand, and not just because I said so.
Right. So do you think that saying no so much, because I know I would, it's like, no, you can't do that. And then they'd push it even further and be like, oh, then can I do this other crazy thing? And it's like, no. And then I felt like I kept saying no all the time. And so 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 how does hypnotherapy help with the parenting?
Okay. But
Let's
just
go
before I
there.
answer that, you know what you've just said about the no, if you're hearing no all the time, it's as much as possible if we can take children's ideas, and if they're really out there and crazy and dangerous, is how can we make them? And so, you know, you can always say, that sounds like a really fun thing to do. And you can talk about, and that might not be safe because there are cars on the road. How can we make it safer? How can we still have fun and make it safer? So take their ideas. So rather than just rejecting them and saying, no, we can't do that. No, that's dangerous. It's how can you say yes with boundaries?
Yeah. Yeah.
So rather than just saying no and for it to be a dead end, it's how can we say yes, but have really like boundaries around it so we can still keep them safe and keep the fun.
Yeah.
So,
And as they get older, right? As
yeah,
they get older, it's hard when we're always telling them what to do and what not to do, because we are stopping them from being able to make decisions for themselves, right?
yeah, yeah.
And so I love that you do this. You know, I'm a huge fan of hypnotherapy. Like, I understand the power of hypnotherapy, and I understand the science behind hypnotherapy. But some people might think, you know, it's they see those shows of people barking like a dog, right? So or they're like, oh yeah, so and so got hypnotized and for not smoking anymore, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So can you just like explain the reality of hypnotherapy?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, you know, like hypnotherapy gets a bad name because of the stage hypnosis, which there's no therapy going on there.
Yeah.
You know, they're selecting their audience really well, and people are doing things that they wouldn't naturally do, but anything that they do on stage, they're doing it because it's part of something that they would do. It's not completely outside of their values and their principles. So in terms of parenting, you know, like I was saying, from when we're children, we're being programmed. And what can happen is, I'll try and explain it through an example. So say if as a child, you were quite loud and you were constantly being told, God, you're so loud. Can you just stop making so much noise? You're too much. You're too this. And so what happens? Your own natural personality of being exuberant and being loud, and you've toned it down because you wanted to please your caregivers, because you were told you were wrong. The way you're being is wrong.
Yeah.
What can happen is that you grow into an adult, you have a child who is incredibly loud and exuberant, and you have this hot button because you weren't allowed to be that. So when you see this behavior, it can really push that button. And because we've forgotten that we became like this because we trained ourselves to be calmer, quieter. We trained ourselves to be compliant. And now you've got this child, no matter what you tell them, they're still being loud, they're, you know, they seem out of control, they're not listening to you. So that can really push your button. And so with the hypnotherapy, it can really help to lessen that trigger. So you can understand that actually what happens is that when we see that behavior in a child, it means there's a part of us that we're not loving, that part of us that wants to be heard, that part of us that wants to be loud and exuberant, that part we stopped loving.
Yeah, we resented. I love that you said that because that's so true, right? It's like I know that there's some things in my own life, like because I was trained not to do that. It's like when other people do that, it's like, that's just so wrong, right? And so, yeah, so that's so interesting.
So because we were wronged, we now see the behavior and we see it externally, we make that wrong. And
Yeah.
then so triggered, you want to try and stop it.
Yeah, but what if, because your child is so boisterous and loud and outspoken, that she became a world famous speaker that helped millions of people around the world, but because it was tempered,
Yeah.
she still became a speaker, but it was to a room of 20 rather than 20,000, right? Does that make
I've
sense?
had to overcome lots and lots of anxiety, lots and lots of help to be able to do any kind of speaking, or she might not have gone there at all.
Right, because speaking out loud is wrong.
Wrong. So maybe what happens is, and I can tell you this is something that definitely happened to me, you become invisible, you become quieter. You're like, I can't be seen in this world. It's not safe. So
Yeah,
you start viewing the world as not safe, because if you couldn't please your caregivers, how is the rest of the world going to accept you? So you're
right,
absolutely right. The qualities that your child has that may be irritating, it might be the quality that they need later on in life. You never know what
right,
circumstances might come up, and they need that one quality.
right. So maybe just helping them focus that beautiful quality that you think is loud and obnoxious, kind of focus it into something positive.
Yeah, but also if you can work on your own triggers, so it comes back to self-love. Like I was saying, if your child is exhibiting a behavior that you suppressed in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that is going to be your hot button.
Yeah,
So it's how can you love that part of you that you suppressed?
right,
And give yourself that compassion, that self-love, then that behavior is no longer so obnoxious to you, because you realize it's just how this child is.
it's making so much sense. So I know the science behind hypnotherapy. I really want to make it crystal clear for those that might want to try hypnotherapy, but they're afraid that they're going to be made to do something not comfortable. I know from my own experience that when you're doing hypnotherapy, you are fully 100% aware of what's happening. Is that true?
It is true. And, there's nothing, no hypnotherapist can tell you to do something that is outside of your morals, values, principles. Your mind will automatically reject anything that just that isn't right for you, that goes against your values and principles. And what I would say is we're all up to the age of 80, we were in hypnosis anyway. So it's something that's very familiar to us. And on a daily basis, we are in and out of hypnosis.
Yeah.
So every time you go to sleep, just before you fall asleep, just before you wake up, if you're engrossed in reading a book, if you're driving long distances and you have no recollection of how you got from A to B,
Right.
all of those kinds of states are hypnotic states. And they're just really good states to for a hypnotherapist to give you suggestions that are all for your benefit, which is why
Right.
it's really important, just before a child is going to bed, just before they're falling asleep, and at the moment when they're waking up, we really give them positive messages. There's no point in saying to a teenager, if they're in bed and they're just waking up, you're so lazy. We're programming them.
Yeah. Oh.
So
Oh.
lazy, you're never getting out of bed, and they're still in that sleepy mode. We're programming them to have this idea, I'm lazy, I'm lazy, I'm lazy, I'm being told I'm lazy.
Yeah.
And then they will act in the
And then
way.
it's like, yes, I'm lazy, leave me alone.
You're right.
It's like owning it, right? Owning that suggestion so for hypnotherapy to work, they have to accept these suggestions.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
And another thing that people think is like hypnotherapy, it's like one and done, but that's not exactly how it works, right?
hypnotherapy does work in layers. We've talked about this before, haven't we? And every time you experience hypnosis, you go deeper and deeper. And it just becomes more and more powerful. So hypnotherapy, definitely, it's not just a one and done thing. For some people it can be, and for some things it can be. But generally speaking, I would say hypnotherapy does work. It just goes deeper and deeper every time you experience hypnosis. Work on all the kind of stuff underneath our words, underneath our actions that we're not even aware of. So, you know, when you kind of like, you know, I know you're aware of this, and I'm sure a lot of the audience are aware of this. You know, over 90% of everything we do, even like the way I'm moving my hands right now, I'm not kind of sitting here going, I'm going to move my hands like this.
Right.
You know, it's just happening.
I move energy.
Yeah. And so much of it is just out of our awareness. And, you know, so many people make conscious decisions. I'm going to change this. I'm going to do this. And then within 2 days, they're back to doing what they were doing before. And it's just because they're unaware of all the kind of stuff going on underneath that is in control. And our conscious just doesn't control very much. People think, I just need willpower. I just need this. And actually, there are stronger forces going on underneath. And hypnotherapy is really good at reprogramming those things that are underlying. So then it can just become easier for you to create new habits, for you to create new ways of being, for you to create new ways of having, you know, taking action.
Yeah, I love that. So if you as a child were always told to be quiet and stay still, and then that's kind of what you're telling your own children to do, you can, through hypnotherapy, release that trigger, rework it. It's kind of like, so in your hypnotherapy, you kind of override that and kind of rewrite the script. Is that kind of how it works?
It's kind of doing the reprogramming. So a lot of the reprogramming, you know, like when we've been told not to do things, or we've been told, we've been given a label, what happens is that there's the part of us that we stop loving.
Yeah.
That we give up. And maybe ashamed of it, right? You know, all of those kind of icky feelings that happen. And so through the hypnotherapy, you start to love those parts again. So you can in turn become a bit more of who you were meant to be. And you can allow your child to be who they are meant to be. So hypnotherapy kind of releases you from the prison that you were put into, you know, the box that you were put into, that you then carried on putting yourself into as well.
Right. And we're not saying it's just how you were wired. It's not that you're a bad mom or a bad person or, you know, greedy for asking what you want. It's none of that. It's just we were trained to stay right here, stay right here, when we're supposed to be right here, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were trained to not love parts of us.
Yeah.
How do we learn to love all of us? Even the bits that we're ashamed of. And realize actually we don't need to have the shame around it. I'll just give you an example of myself. I don't know if I've shared it with you before. But as a child, I was constantly being told, you're clumsy, you're clumsy, you're clumsy. So I know that by the time I was 7 or 8, nobody had to tell me I was clumsy.
Yeah.
I used to go around telling everyone I was clumsy. I used to, you know, and the interesting thing was, when I became an adult, complete strangers used to tell me that I was clumsy. I remember at the train station once dropping my purse and all my money fell out and everything fell out. And these two women looked at me and one of them said to me, you are clumsy, my dear, aren't you? I just remember feeling really hurt because I thought, oh, no. and that used to be such a trigger for me. And I used to think I was, you know, along with the word clumsy, there were other words that were also kind of entangled in that. And then it took me a bit of work to, rather than saying I was clumsy, I started seeing it as I was just having an accident. It's just an accident. It's just, and it could happen to anyone.
I love that you're bringing this up because it's like clarifying so much for me personally. So I know that it must be clarifying. So because it's like my parents would tell me whenever I asked for anything that I was being greedy, right? So I took ownership of that label. Right. So your caregivers told you were clumsy. So you took ownership, but it really isn't your truth. It was put upon you. So greedy girl, right? It is not my truth that was put upon me. So you're not releasing anything that is of who we are in truth. You're just removing those things that we took ownership that never really was belonged to us.
Absolutely. So just to go back to that clumsy one, up till the age of about 25, 26, I did used to constantly bang into things and fall over.
Right.
The moment I let that go, I can't quite remember the time frame, but I know it was about a year later that I noticed. I just thought, I can't remember the last time I fell over. And I used to do like the proper, in front of an audience, sprawling when I fell. I never used to fall elegantly or trip up. It was always like sprawling out or banging into things and getting bruised. And when I released that, my behavior changed. My identity changed. And so when people used to say to me, you're clumsy, it used to really hurt me. But now if anybody was to say to me, Tanya, God, you're clumsy, A, it wouldn't hurt. And
Right.
B, who are they talking about? Are they talking
Right.
to me? It wouldn't even touch me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. So this is such a deep conversation, and I know that you will be releasing you are releasing a new program.
Yeah.
You already did a test. You did a focus group, and it's going to become available very soon because you're just making it even better, right?
Yeah.
So I love your program because it includes both hypnotherapy and coaching.
Yeah.
So I want to. I'm being guided back to like hypnotherapy working in layers, right? And so I read this amazing thing that 93% of people have receive amazing results in 6 hypnotherapy sessions versus it takes like something over 20 something sessions of traditional therapy, right? So that's why I love hypnotherapy so much, because I understand the power in it. It does work in layers, so the more you do it, the deeper you go and the better results you have. But you understood that hypnotherapy alone wasn't enough for parents, right? That the coaching is needed too. And I love that you married them both together. But what made you know that both were needed? Because that's different than any other program out there.
I think I knew that the hypnotherapy would work really well for parents' own triggers, their own hot buttons, the stuff that was going on for themselves. And the coaching is really helpful. It'll just take the whole program to a different level. You get lots of coaching programs for parents, but they don't have hypnotherapy in them. And so the hypnotherapy really helps to neutralize some of those things that we were talking about. And the coaching is really to give parents a chance to talk about their children's behavior and knowing that they're not the only ones going through this. And there is so much power because so many people are parenting on their own, looking at Facebook, looking at Instagram and thinking, everybody else seems to have cracked parenting. They make it look easy.
Yeah.
Every time they take photographs, the kids are all well turned out. If I try and take a photograph of my children,
They got mud.
Yes, it's very rare to get all of them clean at the same time. So you're doing all this comparison stuff. So the coaching really helps to know that you're not alone, helps to form a community. and the coaching informs the hypnosis.
Yeah.
So I know that whatever is brought up in the coaching, that will be the basis of the hypnotherapy that I do. And that makes it bespoke and makes it, you know, it just takes it to the next level. So it's not just a pre-recorded standard hypnotherapy, it's based on the coaching.
Yeah, I love that. And you help with the coaching to help understand and change the perspective of your child
Yeah,
and who they are and how to co-create,
yeah,
right? In a way that brings you joy and has your child responding in a more positive way
yeah.
to you as a parent. Is that
So,
true?
yeah, so it's really the coaching is to really help see beyond the behavior. So
Yeah.
rather than just seeing the behavior and wanting to stop it, it's really understanding, why is this behavior happening? What is it that my child needs? And also at the same time, what do I need so I can give my child what they need? So it's never just one thing, all about meeting the child's needs. You've got to be able to meet your own needs as well.
Yeah. So
Yes,
I love that you beta tested your program before and you found that because you used to do the hypnotherapy in the coaching session.
The program was one coaching session, one hypnotherapy session, coaching session, hypnotherapy session. And I found that doing the hypnotherapy with the parents, it didn't always
Live, right? On live.
live, because, you know, it's a live situation. Children don't go to bed on time. So, you know, you've got children hanging off your arm, thing all over you. You know, they're doing,
And you're trying to say, you know, breathe.
and you're trying to be in hypnosis. So, I am already changing that program. So the live sessions will just be coaching, and the hypnotherapy sessions will be recorded, but they will still be bespoke because they'll be based on the coaching.
And they can do it more often too, right?
Same.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
haven't got a child hanging off each arm.
Right. I love that that showed up in your beta test because it was like a huge aha, right?
Yeah, I already knew that might happen
Yeah.
because of the time of the course, but I wish literally just to see how it went, and that's just helped to make the program even better. Yeah.
Right. And because you coach, because you serve worldwide, you know, for me, it's in the morning. We started this interview in the morning and you're in the evening, right? So yeah, so it's all different time zones, etc. So I personally love that you're doing giving the recording for the hypnotherapy for people to do when they do have that 5 minutes of quiet time. And I just have gotten to know you since last fall, and I just respect who you are as a coach, as a leader, as a hypnotherapy. You were in my summit. You are so amazing. And it is such an honor to see what you're creating and putting into the world to help parents, especially now.
Oh, thank you for saying that, Susan. Yeah.
Right? Because it's been tough. I am so grateful that my kids are well into their adulthood and I didn't have to remote, do the remote learning and the daycare shut down. So how do I get to work if the daycare shut down and my kids aren't in school? And this week they go to school and next week they don't go to school. It's been so horrible. This has been so like I thought I was tested as a parent, challenge as a parent, but I cannot even imagine. And I just think the parents of today are so amazing.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so
They would. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So along with the layers and the triggers and everything, you also focus on in your program, like the stress levels, the anxiety levels.
Hypnotherapy is amazing for releasing those feelings of stress, overwhelm, frustration. So it's absolutely going to be so beneficial. It's really beneficial as a tool, because hypnotherapy is so good at releasing anxiety and stress.
Right. So parents will find themselves like those things that used to annoy you, right? They're not so much now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it is annoying when you have to say to somebody 15 times, put your shoes on, and you can't get out the house. It is annoying. But it's also in those moments being able to give yourself self-compassion. Of course I'm feeling irritated, and it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Action goes down because you're able to give yourself that compassion in the moment, which normally we don't make the time. We're just like so irritated and every button being pushed. And especially
and then you yell, then you feel guilty, and then you overcompensate, and then right.
Yeah. So I've just been doing some Facebook Lives about all of this, of how to not shout at your child.
Yeah.
Because you do get into that cycle where, one of the things I talk about is how many commands and instructions we give children. And I think it's something like, is it 30 commands in 30 minutes? Yeah. And, what happens is when we give that many instructions, like you were saying before, we're constantly saying to children, don't do that, put that away, pick that up, do that, So there's so many commands. They tune us out.
They
do.
do.
Tune us out, we get louder.
Yeah. And more frustrated.
And then we shout. And then we get their attention.
Yeah.
Then there's this vicious cycle. The child will only respond when we've shouted.
I'm so excited. Like I cannot wait till you say, I'm thinking that this interview is going to be released the same time that you're releasing your program. So let's talk about your program for a few minutes. So your program is 6 weeks, right?
Weeks of coaching. So it's a session a week of coaching. And then in between, I'm going to really encourage people to journal all the things that are happening during the week, because they can bring that journal to the following coaching session. And then after the coaching session, I'll do the hypnotherapy. I'll record a hypnotherapy session, and that will be sent out. And parents need to listen to it a few times a week for it to have the maximum benefit.
Right. At their own leisure, which is so
in their own time.
Right.
Yeah. And each time they listen to that hypnotherapy session, it will just sink in deeper and deeper. And so 6 weeks of this is going to have such a huge impact on the way you feel about yourself as a parent, the way you view your child, and just finding parenting a little bit easier, just finding the joy in things rather than everything is heavy and a chore and a burden, and you just want the day to end and for the kids to fall asleep.
Yeah, because I felt like I was the bad parent, right? Like I always had to be the disciplinarian, and don't do this and don't do that, and do your homework, and eat your dinner, and do this and do that, and make your bed and clean your room, and da-da-da-da, right? It's exhausting being the bad guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun for you. It's not fun for them. It's not fun for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you're doing. So I'm excited for your program. So how can people connect with you so that when you do release your program, which should be about the same time I'm releasing this interview, how can you give me a link to your program when it's ready so I can put it with this video, right? And if it's not under this video, how can they connect with you?
So I've got a Facebook page, which is Full Circle Hypnotherapy Manchester.
Okay.
So
I'll put that link too. So, so awesome. So you also have a free gift for people to help in the immediate while they're waiting for your program, right?
so it's a masterclass on, so it's the hypnosis, hypnotherapy session on how to release feelings of guilt, feelings of shame, and feelings of failure.
Awesome. So that'll get them started. So we'll put that free gift under this video. It was such an honor to interview you, and I'm so excited for all those that you're serving, for all the parents that you're helping, for everything that you put into this world. You are such a gift, and I'm so
Thank you, Susan, and so are you. You're amazing too.
thank you so much. All right. Okay, you guys, definitely parents, don't miss this opportunity to connect with Tania. You will not regret it. I support her 100%. And you know, I never say that lightly. So if please like and share this interview with anybody that you think can use this kind of support. And till next time, I love you all. Take a breath. It's all going to be okay. And I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.